What's going on? What's going on? Welcome back to the channel, One Man's Walk. I am your host, Gamal, back at you with another one. So what do we have for you today? Well, what's left of Slaughterhouse, two members of Slaughterhouse, King Crooked, Joell Ortiz, the rise and fall of Slaughterhouse. Let's get to it right after this intro.
Clean your house music. You can clean too.
Welcome back. So like I said, we're talking about the rise and fall of the Slaughterhouse. I want to say right off the break, you guys know I've been a big Joe Budden fan. So as far as the rap, and I say that all the time, I like to preface that, but I honestly never got into the Slaughterhouse thing. I never really listened to Crooked I, King Crooked. I never really listened to Royce. Joell was cool, but I didn't really listen to him either. And so knowing that Joe was only going to have one verse each go round on songs, I was like, yeah, all right, I can kind of pass on it. Playing the YouTube clips that they gave us for some of the videos, I believe there's one for Vacancy, Backstage, Smoke. I love the beats. And then I looked, I think I remember Joell did a project with Heatmakers, if I'm not mistaken. I think one of his projects, put in the comments, if you guys know, put that in the comments. But I went ahead and I saw that Heatmakers is who I guess they're under as far as who did the production. The beats on here are absolutely amazing. You know what? Let me stop. Let's get into some housekeeping. I almost forgot to do that. If you guys have not already done so, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on your post bell notification so that way you don't miss any of this amazing content. As you see behind me, the latest video that is up is my personal 64 greatest rap albums ever. You guys can see the bracket. It's legit. We're doing it March Madness style. The video that's up now is just a selection Sunday. This upcoming Sunday, we'll go ahead and we'll get everybody to the Sweet 16, just like the tourney's doing currently. And then the week after, we'll get us to the Final Four, so on and so forth. These 4 albums do not represent the 4 albums that potentially they may make the Final Four. They may not. We don't know. But you can see All Eyes on Me is there, Blueprints there, Good Kid, Mad City, and The Infamous. So you know it's legit what this list is bringing. But back to the rise and fall of Slaughterhouse. I want to say I went into it not really sure what to expect. And then when I saw the YouTube videos, I was like, okay, the beats were nice. What they were talking about was nice. And I don't know, hopefully this comes off right. Crooked, because I never really listened to him. I didn't really know what his vibe was with his, like shout out to E's plays him and Dominic. But they're always talking about Crooked and saying, man, Crooked can rap, trying to give me stuff. And I've listened. I'm like, hey, he can rap, but he was never normally my cup of tea. I think he was the shining moment of the CD. Now, Joell was still Joell. Joell gave us amazing bars. Joell rapped really well. I think Crooked on a lot of these songs just really brought a different energy to the records. It was reminiscent to me of Locke's We Are the Streets. And what I mean by that is, leading up to We Are the Streets, it felt like Sheik had been, ever since Reservoir Dogs, where Sheik is like, spitting rhymes to the poster to I Swear Big Moved. Ever since that moment, and you take that verse, you take Blackout, you take what he did on the Flex Tunnel CD, you take the freestyles that were coming out that they did over the Jigga beat, and so on and so up on Hot 97, so on and so forth. And it felt like Sheik just had a different energy to him and a different hunger to him. And while it was world renowned that Kiss was the main guy and then Styles was the next guy and Sheik was normally an afterthought, I feel like, to people, during that stretch again from the Reservoir Dogs going through We Are the Streets, I thought Sheik had the best verses a lot of the times on We Are the Streets. Didn't think he was the best member, but I felt he brought the most energy and hunger to his verses. And so I don't know where Crooked ranks as far as the 4 members of Slaughterhouse, or what used to be Slaughterhouse, is concerned. But I want to say off the break, his flow, his delivery, his punchlines, his cadence, I loved all of it. And I thought, and again, Joell was still really good on the project. The beats are really amazing, but I do feel like Crooked stood out to me a lot on the CD. So I do want to get that out the way. My thoughts real fast before we deep dive into the whole situation. I can see both sides. I can see Joe, and who is retired, right? And Royce saying Slaughterhouse is supposed to represent 4. So you guys can't put out a project representing Slaughterhouse when it's only 2 of you, right? I also get Joell and Crooked's stance that if we try to reach out to you and you don't want to be reached, why can't we use it? We have just as much right to the logo, to what it represents, to the name as you guys do. And so I can see that point as well. I do think personally they could have just came out as a duo instead of doing the whole Slaughterhouse thing. Probably come out as a duo. And I don't think there would have been an issue. I think the issue was not them linking up as much as the name, using the name, and then doing a triggering name, I think, for the other members, being that it's the rise and fall of Slaughterhouse. But honestly speaking, when you listen to the CD and they're getting stuff off of their chest, you can feel, and I can understand the frustration and why, hey, this might have been just as much needed for them as the fans wanted it, right? Like it might have been extremely therapeutic, to use a Joe Budden expression, very therapeutic in what they were doing with the music and allowing the music to vent for them, allowing the music to speak for them, allowing the music to get things off your chest. My grandma says, you can't get anything else put into you. God can't put anything into you until you've gotten everything off of your chest that you have on. And sometimes, we tense up. We don't get everything off of our chest that we need to. And as a result, we have this bent up anger and we're walking around angry. And who knows how long it took them to get to the point where they were willing to do this and be as vulnerable as they are. And we'll get into it as we go through the project, which is really good. It's a really good project. Shout out to that. It's a really good project. But I do think this project was as much needed closure for them. And Joe Budden should understand that, because he what's the record? I think it's Ordinary Love Part 3, where he said, and some things don't end without, and some things just can't end without closure. I believe in that. I do believe in closure. Sometimes you need closure, whether it be with a situation, an individual, whatever. I feel like sometimes things are left unresolved and unsaid. And sometimes you just need that closure just to tie it together, to be able to say, okay, I can let that part of my past go, but I have to have closure. Some people can go on without it. Some people can't. I am an individual. I like the closure. So I respect what the Joell King Crooked thing. Let's get into it. You guys know how I feel. Intros matter to me. Intros set the tone. This intro is more like a interview type of thing, so I'm gonna kind of skip it. It's called The Birth, so I guess it's going into how they come together and things like that. So we're gonna go right into the very first song, which is Vacancy. Let's get it.
Mic check 1 2. Real talk.
Heat makers.
Hey, let the choir do what it do.
Heat makers were the backdrop for the Dipset, so you already know, right?
I remember we was on the road on one of them tours, like, hold on, we got the #1 album in the country, is so on. They called us Voltron. Where did we go wrong? We supposed to did this music for so long. Instead it's so long. The house is vacant. Your mouse is making that podcast money, talking foul and flagrant. Right from his couch, I'm hating.
So right off the break, he jumps right in with the Joe Budden line, because I think people who know Joe or personally know Joe don't call him Joe, they call him Mouse. I forgot how he got that name, but it's an old Jersey City thing. And he said Mouse is on the couch talking foul and flagrant, right? Which is typically what he does on the podcast, the Joe Budden thing. And so he gives his opinion. He's no longer a rapper. He's a podcaster now. He is in this vein. And so he gives his opinion, just like I give mine. Other people give theirs. And so he does give opinions on rappers. And so he's like, yeah, he gets to say whatever he wants from his couch. I'm hating. He's making a ton of money, right? Because Joe is more successful in the lane he's in now than he's ever been as a rapper, which is sad because I loved him as a rapper and wish he would have had this level of success as a rapper. But, you know, that's not how it worked out. So that's what he's saying. And he goes to Royce.
Without debating, the allegories of wild creation. I'm happy you got to smell your flowers, baby. And Crook still out here being crook. Got every rapper shook. He never used a book for a verse or a hook.
I like the hook. I like the guy on the hook too.
So when I got the call, I almost died. Back to the back and forth. The last deal I brought that back was different. Only thing I heard back was crickets. That was my answer. Listen, never did lack persistence. I ain't no mathematician, but I see mad division. Couldn't get past the friction.
So I like this. I like the honesty he brings to the music on his project. So he said he brought to the table a deal. He actually mentions it in more detail in another record, but he talks about bringing something to the table, right? An opportunity for them because they had left Shady and were independent, and it looked like he had gotten them a 7-figure deal, which is what he says in another record. And he says he brought that to the table, and all he heard was crickets. That's his decision. So he brings an opportunity thinking, okay, the four of us can get on our feet again, but nobody came to the table, which let him know your silence spoke volumes about what you really felt and what you were really thinking and really feeling. Your silence let me know where we really stand and what you really want to do going forward. You know what I'm saying? So even if your mouth isn't saying it, your silence is. And so that's what he's mentioning right there, as far as is trying to bring something to the table and not hearing anything. And then he says, slick line, he said he's not really good with math, but he could see division, right? Because he heard the crickets, and then there's no response to an opportunity for them to continue as a group. And so it lets you know. So
bonding with the group, I became partial. He didn't start the group, he can't end it. Don't blame Marshall. He didn't start the group, he can't end it. Don't blame Paul. And fans been there from the beginning. Can't blame y'all. Let me take some responsibility. I had that Hennessy feeling me, willingly committing penalties mentally. Whenever liquor with enemy, bringing the silliest energy. Innocent, I can't pretend to be all. I just don't. Free all you lie, you stole and treated me just like an enemy.
I love that. And so I wish I had the words here, but he says he can't act like he didn't have a part in it. I say all the time, and I cannot stand it. A lot of times people will say something failed, and they want to blame you. And they want to put the emphasis on what you do wrong in the situation and what you were not doing. And do not look at themselves and say, you know what? I am just as much to blame. A lot of times what people will say is 80% you and like 20% me. It's 90% you, it's 10% me. I am doing everything and I am being so great and it's you. And he's like, nah, I can't pretend and act like I wasn't a part of the reason why we failed. Everyone had a part to play in this. And he says he can't pretend to act like when he did not fall back on his vices and get the drinking, that he didn't bring weird energy. So he's acknowledging, look, I brought stuff to the table that led to this. I'm not here to, and I love that, because as a grown man, it can't just be I look and I say, you know what, it's your fault and it's your fault and it's your fault. And I take ownership, take responsibility, take accountability for our own actions and saying, you know what, I can say and believe you're at fault, but I also can look at myself and say I'm at fault too. You weren't at fault alone. I contributed and had a real role to play in how we ended up where we ended up. And I don't like when people don't do that. It really irritates me. But that was.
It's just hitting me on my purple tape. Pride make a circle break. Stop letting them fake lies circulate.
He said, you know, and going back again, he said Eminem. We can't say Eminem made the group break up. We can't say Paul Rosenberg, Eminem's manager, and high up in Shady, caused the group to fail. We can't blame the fans because they wanted it. And then he says, look, at this point in time, it's him and Joell. This is our purple tape, which is actually kind of fitting. The purple tape, as we know, that's also in my 64 greatest, but that is the defining Raekwon Wu-Tang album, right? After they did the group collective and then they had to do the solos. That is the most defining one to most people. Now, I personally love the GZA one, really, but that Raekwon is defining, and it really should say Raekwon and Ghostface. It's very misleading because Ghost is on what, 80, 85% of the album, whether it be skits, whether it be full-fledged songs. I mean, of all the videos he put out, the only one that didn't have Ghost in it was Incarcerated Scarface. It's like every other video was a record with him and Ghost. And so to see now Crooked and Joell, I like that kind of correlation. So that's really good. That's a really dope record. So this next one is called Ain't Nobody Mad.
Why you still talking about that bullshit? Joel, can you tell me why you still talking about that old bullshit?
I'm gonna bring it up a little bit.
Clearing up on the bullshit last. Slaughterhouse dead, so it felt fitting talking about the past. I met y'all in the industry. When the group formed, Nissan, Honda, Chevy was playing everywhere in the streets. Every one of them vehicles already had me en route to my legacy. Could've stayed solo then, but I was fucking with the chemistry, the brotherhood, the energy. But please let it be known, I was doing this shit all alone, in the zone, on my own. Champ hoodie with the Timbs, Brooklyn. Come on, couple restaurants do.
So I like that. And we do get that because there are a few records where they are definitely getting it off their chest, how they feel. And in here, he was just kind of letting us know, like, look, by the time I joined up to form with the other three members of Slaughterhouse, I was already an established independent artist. He was long gone off of Aftermath. He was on that Nissan Chevy that he's talking about is the flip on the Beamer Benz of Bentley, I think is how it was, but the Lloyd Banks Joel Santana record. And so Joel had a remix to it, which was popping. Joe had a remix to it, which was popping. And so he was like, look, my name is already in the streets. I didn't actually need to be a part of the group. And he said, I joined it for the camaraderie. I joined it for the brotherhood. I joined it because we were trying to do something different. I didn't need to do it. I wanted to do it. And so let's speed up. Let's hear what Crook got to say.
Rap circles around you, there's gonna get paid. Minimum wage, I've been in the shade. At the end of the day, whoever get in the way, it's digging the grave. Y'all behave. I've been about my money bag, yo, funny bunny. So fuck a crummy bummy rap shit.
That one is cool. I do like it. I don't love it. I mean, it's nice. I still gave it the like, but it was cool. This next one, Backstage, is what they had the video for. This beat is nuts. Man, Heatmakers. Crazy.
Let's go. Slaughterhouse on 3. Come on, man. 1, 2, 3. 4 of us backstage, we say a prayer. Come out one by one and sound off. I see it like I'm there.
My goodness, this beat.
Felt energy everywhere. Point that mic in the crowd, they go line for line anywhere in the song. Organically build an empire. Once that spark matched the talent on paper, I knew we'd catch fire. From red spiders to pulling up in that red spider. The sold out shows without Joe, we tore that Best Buy up. Before Royce and Crook was sober, man, this shit was ill. We sip to kill, give Ruby bigger than you can chill. Joe ain't drink, but he partied on them prescription pills. The one video depicted how he was living for real.
I remember the video he's talking about too, where they kept showing them on tour and what that was like. The girls was everywhere. It looked like it was actually a fun video. I can't front. But I like that verse. And I like as he's just giving his perspective and his point of view. And he's really talking about when it was still fun. what he remembered it being fun. Because if he speed up his verse some, let's see here.
Deals on the side like Nicky and Casino. Joe, you thought you was the head Gambino. Made decisions with no regard for the next man. We know that rollie lit up nice. It had the large gal, but you was on your ish for that ice, just like you are now.
That's a hot line.
Royce, we was pretty tight, and you got around Mike. And
That you was on your ish for the ice like you are now, because Ish and Ice are on the podcast replace Rory and Maul. It's a hotline.
that last phone call revealed it was the last days. Man, I wish real life was like backstage. The full-headed monster, who want a problem with us? But see, the problem was us.
Yeah.
And a whole lot of stuff we probably should have discussed.
Yeah.
But we here now, no going back. Hey, at least it was real when we was backstage. Dear God, thank you for letting me wake up. Feel like I'm in the land of Canaan. Feel like we are the sons of Jacob.
This crooked verse is so fire. Now, he really did go into like a biblical state of references, which was actually really dope, right? I'm saved, and so proud to be saved. And I love how he went through different parts of the Bible and tried to pull out different things. Now, obviously, he flipped it for a rap and whatnot, but the fact that he even did that, I'm like, you know what? Lord, use you. But I liked it.
Brothers who destined to break up, but will we meet up in Egypt to make up? The snake up the tree of life, who offered the apple to Eve. See, I bit the forbidden fruit, and I hit the chapel to grieve, cause I knew the truth. In Babylon, shackled by thieves in the lion's den, I triumphed when Daniel believed. I was a slave to my loyalty. Measure the pressures like trying to measure the desert, feeling lesser and lesser. Joseph never treasured my efforts. He couldn't spot a goat like shepherds and lepers, but I'm a king like Nebuchadnezzar.
A lot of this, I feel like they come back to Joe as being part of the reason why it didn't work. And Joel mentioned it and said, hey, he's doing behind deals like Joe Pesci was in Casino, or he only had love for himself and was only looking out for him and not the best interest of the group. Crooked says a couple of times it felt like he thought him and Joe were a little closer, but Joe didn't see him the same. So maybe Joe valued what Royce brought to the table, and he valued what Joel brought to the table. And maybe he didn't think that Crooked was on the same level as him, right? And now hearing these verses and hearing these songs and these structures, I beg to differ, but that might have been how he felt. And Crooked is realizing, oh crap, that's how he really felt about me. Sometimes people let you know how they really feel about you, how they really see you. You can think that someone sees you one way, but it may not be that, you know?
The goal for us, I took the Zion, but the three-man story didn't fit in the book of Ryan. I would be lying if I didn't say that rock hit me like...
That three-man book didn't fit in the book of Ryan. I think that's what Royce's name is Ryan. I want to say that because that makes sense about the three-man group, because he came when Joe retired and he's like, I don't want to do this. And they're like, all right, Royce, well, let's all do it with you, the three of us. And Royce is like, I'm not doing it if Joe isn't doing it. And so that's how you know that didn't fit in that book of Ryan, the three-man group.
Shook the line, the giant, I dropped quickly. I was trying to organize the Last Supper. If Joseph is married to retirement, why we making the fans suffer? Y'all making our path rougher. In the belly of the whale like Jonah, we ate sushi. And that's such a rap hustler for you. I'm the Samson that y'all made.
That's hard. He said, Jonah, that's actually one of my favorite stories in the Bible, but we're in the belly of the whale, we ate sushi. That's a hustler for you. Meaning, regardless how bad a situation or predicament is, look around your surroundings and make the most of it and eat. It's a dope line. It's crazy. This Samson line next is nuts.
Cut off my crown, now I'm tied to two pillars. Enemies all around till God sent me the strength to bring the house of slaughter down.
Woo!
I died and came back as John the Elder. Wrote a book of...
He said, I was Samson, Delilah cut my crown. And now I'm looking all around, surrounded by enemies, right? As his hands is on the pillar, because the story is Samson being the strongest guy ever, and they wanted to know his secrets, and he ended up telling it to a lady, and Delilah got his hair cut off, and the Spirit of the Lord had left him, and they gouged out his eyes. And he went to the pillar and he went to the Lord one last time. He's like, Lord, just give me the strength to kill all of my enemies. Because he's surrounded by enemies. They made him a slave. And he's like, look, I put my hands are on the pillar. I'm asking the Lord, give me the strength to burn the house of Slaughter down. Just like Samson to go out one last time, taking out all my enemies. Come on, man. This verse is nuts on so many biblical spiritual levels. I love it. I love the correlations of it. It's nuts. This is probably one of my favorite verses on here.
A revelation about our last days. Now it ain't nothing left to tell you. This the last page. The story's over.
No more backstage.
I guess I thought it was sweet. Cause sugar and salt look the same, you know what I mean?
We gotta bring that back.
Trying to organize the last supper. If Joseph is married to retirement, why we making the fans suffer? Y'all making our path rougher. In the belly of the whale like Jonah, we ate sushi. And that's such a rap hustler for you. I'm the Samson that y'all made. Delilah gave me a ball fade. Cut off my crown, now I'm tied to two pillars. Enemies all around till God sent me the strength to bring the house of Slaughter down. I died and came back as John the Elder. Wrote a book about our bad ways. A revelation about our last days. Now it ain't nothing left to tell you. This the last page. The story's over. No more backstage. I guess I thought it was sweet.
This
Sugar and
is
salt look
nuts.
the same, you know what I mean?
That is true. But that line too, where he's like, came back as John the Elder. This our last days. Gave me a book of revelations. This the last page. Story's over. No more backstage. Well, John wrote, not John the Baptist, but John in the Bible, one of the disciples, wrote Revelations after getting a dream. The Lord put him in a state where he could write out revelations and see things in like a different realm. And that is nuts how he put it together. And I loved it. So as you could tell, right? We deep dive on this channel. You already know what it is. But that's fire. So let's move on. Floodwaters. This is nuts too. This beat. I love. Ooh, the soul on this.
Here, my dear, it was just right. Made the album so the royalties could be alimony for his ex-wife.
That real?
This is alimony for the fans. Gangster, always give a fuck about whoever put you where you are. That's gangster.
Yes, I had to stop it right there because I don't want that line to go over people's head. I say it all the time. I don't care what happens if you fall out with an individual, right? You got to remember if that person put you on. I always think about two things. One, in my own personal life, a young girl or young lady, whatever you want to call her, who put me on at work to different things, and she didn't have to do it. And that's all the time. You know what I mean? Because she don't look like me. Young, blonde, blue-eyed white girl, or green eyes, whatever. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what her political stance is, religious stance. Doesn't matter how she feels, social, economics, whatever. I never forget that she took a chance on me when she didn't have to. She didn't have to. And she did. And did it repeatedly. Multiple times has looked out for me when she could have looked out for somebody who looked like her. And so I tell all the time, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm never going to forget that. And I respect that. And I stand by that. And Master P, if you guys go back and watch, I should do a review on that still. I know it's a little old, but I might still do it. Master P, the documentary he did on BET last year for the No Limit. He goes on there and he tells the story of Snoop having a record when he went and got Snoop from Death Row and he went to see Suge. Snoop had an album ready to go called F Suge. And Master P's like, you can't put that out. And he was like, why? That's how I feel. And he was like, yeah, that's how you feel. I'm not discrediting how you feel. You can't put that out. He's like, why can't I put that out? He's like, because regardless how you feel about that man today, there is no Snoop Dogg today without Suge. So you can't go back now and say, F him, F him, F him. You don't like him? Cool. But you're not going to publicly get out and disrespect the person who took a chance on you when others didn't. There has to be some level of loyalty to that some level of loyalty to the individual who gave you the opportunity, who gave you the chance. And that's what Crooked just said. I'll bring it back just slightly so you can hear it again.
Always give a fuck about whoever put you where you are. That's it.
Always care about who put you where you are. Always care about who put you where you are. Too many times people forget the individuals who helped them get there. I talked about it on the Kanye thing, how he was shooting the video the whole time with Cootie and the other guy. And I'm sorry for not remembering the individual's name. And the moment, I mean, they're doing this documentary, they're giving up their own stuff to work with him. And literally, the moment he had an opportunity to get the buzz he wanted and put out the Jesus Walks video, he was like, yo, I need hype. And I'm like, what? These guys have rolled with you. They believed in you when others didn't. You couldn't even have gotten a hype to answer a phone for you a couple weeks ago, a couple months ago, a couple years ago. And now you're not going to get, at your biggest opportunity to blow, you're going to give it to hype and not the individuals who held you down. That's crazy. That's crazy. And so I love that. He's talking truth, man.
This way you smoking on a little West Coast. Don't spill it, do say all on your retros. Every strip got me feeling like I'm wearing wet clothes. Gun like a dick sucker in a hearing aid. It's giving death blows.
Did he say blotted out? That's the Mozzie line.
Don't spill it, do say all on your retros. Every strip got me feeling like I'm wearing wet clothes. Gun like a dick sucker in a hearing aid. It's giving death blows.
I gotta think of that's a Mozzie line. If you say that blotted out, that's a Mozzie.
Funerals in my family this year. This is my therapy. Music always helped carry me. Apparently it took care of me.
I said it was therapy.
I'ma rock him like I'm Eric. Maybe we should just walk away like fuck slide. Both of us live another day like fuck die. Take a ride out.
I love that part.
Running plays like a wide out.
I love that part. He says maybe could let it go. We ain't got to slide out. I love that Cali talk. I mean, I'm not normally into Cali talk, but I do love that whole slide thing that they do. And he said, you know, like live to die another day, like F dying. Let me make sure I got the line right.
Maybe we should just walk away like fuck slide. Both of us live another day like fuck die. Take a ride out.
Love that. That's essentially when you look at Doughboy and Boys in the Hood. That's what Cuba Gooding Jr. did. He's like, look, man, let's live for another day, man. Let me out the car. You know, everybody gonna want to do that. But he was like, you know, maybe today's not the day to slide. Maybe today's not the day to do some type of bodily harm to somebody else, because this could be my last day. You know, live for another day. Like I'm not dying. Not today, at least. I love this. Sounds good, man. This is a really good CD. Like, this is a really good CD.
Ice melting in my drink as I sit and think like it's still happening. Kaepernick took a knee, then Derek Chauvin did as a reaction.
Come on, man. He just said Colin Kaepernick took a knee, Derek Chauvin did as a reaction. It never hit me, right? Because until I heard that line, and I was like, come on, Joell. Kaepernick took a knee trying to stand up for police brutality against people who look like me, and could be people who look like you if you're watching it and you look like me. And he said, right, because Kaepernick's been blackballed in the NFL now, right? Because nobody wanted to hear, you know, all of that love and with all that stuff they be putting on helmets and putting on the field. And I'm not going to be a hypocrite in front, like I haven't been watching the NFL. I have. So, but I also recognize, call it what it is. It's nonsense, right? They don't believe it. Because if they did, he would have been had a job and they would have been doing more than they've been doing. Because all he tried to do was showcase, look, this is what's going on. But anyway, he takes a knee peacefully. And George Floyd dies because Derek Chauvin and the other cohorts, right, supposed to protect and serve, are resting a knee on a man's neck for what was it, 9 minutes? 10 minutes? 12, 13 minutes, somewhere, I can't remember off the top of my head, but somewhere in there. It's crazy. And so when he flipped the line and he said he kneeled on him as a reaction, I said, man, because I don't know if that's what he was actually thinking as that was happening. But subconsciously, what Cap was trying to kneel essentially stand for, this guy was trying to kneel and essentially kill for, to keep beneath him. It's a crazy psychological, spiritual aspect of it. I love that line. I love it. I'm gonna play it back one more time because I just absolutely love it.
Ice melting in my drink as I sit and think like it's still happening. Kaepernick took a knee, then Derek Chauvin did as a reaction. Time heals all wounds, huh? Why the fuck I feel like I'm still scabbing? Anxiety, PTSD, and depression forming these pill habits. Zombies using phone screens as a smoke screen to their real life. Subconsciously in competition with your last post, but they hit like. Ironically, a heart pops up, but it's no love that come with that. Twerk video, run it back, share death post, then double tap on a life quote. Is that COVID-19 got us under mask? Give me 6 feet. Why you coughing? 6 feet. We lower costs. Enough.
He dived into social media. You guys know I'm not on social media anymore, but he dived into social media and what it's like as far as you feel like you're competing with your previous post. Well, why did this post get this amount of likes and this one didn't? And all right, if I put up a video about twerking, or if I'm twerking, not me twerking, but if the female's twerking in the video, all right, it's going to get a ton of whatever. I know it used to happen like that, like with like porn stars and stuff like that. I followed them, and they would have, if they posted something about their real life outside of their profession, it didn't get the same love that them showing their butt or their breast or whatever, trying to say something nasty, got the approval. And it was almost like you can only be this one thing. People can't see you as more than just this one act or this one profession you've chosen to get into. And so it sucks. Social media does that to people, where you feel like you're just competing against yourself. You put out a life quote and it doesn't get the love like the raunchy stuff does or whatever. So I love it. That's a record that's fire. This next record,
the title of the album, is Glasshouse.
The Glasshouse joint.
Try to put the group back together. That's for the culture word. Brushed it off like it's nothing. That's why I'm so disturbed. What would crooked eye do? Get back to the grind. Bentleys, I'm a bite. Glasshouse, brand new. I challenge any real.
That one is cool. It was cool. I liked it. Brothers Keeper too. It was cool. Let's bring it up.
When we can't get into the crib, no BET ciphers in the basement.
I like that line. Let's bring it back.
Music, this is really what I did. Long before Slaughterhouse, I was dealing with the pigs and the marshals padlocking when the rent ain't what it is. Welcome to our house where we can't get into the crib. No BET ciphers in the basement with the crew. Just EBT is hyper when the payment's going through. Thought I was
going back to like the old days of what it was like struggling for him. And saying, come into our house, but we can't even get in our own house. And him saying, listen, the Slaughterhouse logo is fitting that's the logo of the pig, because I was dealing with that back when I was in another life and dealing with police officers who did not treat me nicely, for lack of a better word. This one's called Brothers Keeper.
Get where you learned it. Nah, on second thought, that ain't the shit I'm concerned with. They cremated my loyalty, my niggas just burned it. Guess that's a different way to say it. This shit earn it.
They cremated my loyalty. I guess they just burned it. He said that's another way, I guess, for them to say that I gotta earn it. Like earn, you put your ashes in the urn. Nice little punchline metaphors. Again, Crooked on here was really getting off. Like it's nasty what he was doing on this mic. Let's go up to this next one, Almighty. I like this one. Bring this up. Which one? One of them had the beat switch. Nah, I didn't like that one. This is my favorite one on here.
I believed in that. I believed in a lot for me.
This is that record. Once again, this song that Jay-Z Beanie Siegel. I don't remember what project this is on, but this was my record. That beat, it's a nice little flip on it, but that's a nasty beat.
Once again, it's hard, nigga. Me and Joell be like hard liquor. All shots, no bartender. I'm pulling up in New York, I got the Cali plates on the car fender. A Zod watch worth the cigar snip. Blowing smoke in the air, gun loaded, you get the large picture. If I draw it, you'll be a chalk figure. Big toe with a small sticker. I don't do all the industry functions. I'm no good at trying to smile in faces. I be feeling like punching.
Facts.
Fake hugging after wild alcoholic consumption. Only time I ever watch the awards if I'm holding one in the air.
That's how I be feeling though, man. I think my face says it. Like, when I rock with you, I rock with you. I feel like there's no in between with me. Either like, all right, I'm all the way in with you, or I'm all the way out with you. I don't really have like in betweens with people. And so like when I'm in, I'm in. You got me. And then when I'm out, I'm out. Like, I'm all the way out. And that's what he's saying. Like, look, man, I don't want to deal with being phony and fake. That's why I don't show up to some of these events, because it's dealing with a bunch of people who I don't like, who probably don't like me anyway. And I got to smile and act like, and I'm like, yeah, nah, I'm good. And that's what he's saying, man. I'd rather punch some of these people in the face. So I'd rather just not go. Let's bring it up, though, because that crook verse on here.
Of a Don leader, getting looters in the plans, I'm a calm leader. Still shoot you in your man's eye beater. Road manager moving with them bands, I'm a palm reader.
I got my future in my hands. I love that.
I came up on them.
Now, I'm not here for the palm reading stuff. I don't believe in that nonsense. I mean, I believe in this. There's spirits about that type of stuff, but I'm not into the palm reading. But I like him saying a flip on that is, but I got my future in my hands, right? Because that's what a palm reading is supposed to be telling you, allegedly, is your future. But I like that because he's taking more so saying, I'm taking ownership. I can change how things go in my life if I take ownership over me and what it is I choose to do, say, act, feel, whatever.
Reach for a dealer, just hook a crack fiend right in the backseat. That's Maxine, crazy. Cheeks, no bad teeth. Yeah, she alright. She just started smoking ash last week.
You be alright.
I show you my hood live in 3D. Niggas still selling CDs and DVDs by the DDs. Better eat your Wheaties. Niggas running away from PDs. EBT and that PPP got my niggas greedy. Across the street, we.
That song is nuts, right? Like, I love that beat. I love the flow. They both were getting off. This COASTIN record too.
You see this game? It's a beautiful woman.
It's so many good records. And again, it just comes to, I think sometimes some of these rappers,
I'm just trying to give you a truth.
the hook are coming in, right? I think, and that used to be the issue I had with Nas, because we know we love Nas on this channel. You guys love Nas. You always show the videos, love the Nas videos for sure. And so Magic, it was written, it's all up there. But with some of my favorite rappers, or rappers, the problem is typically their inability sometimes to have the better beats. And it just goes to show you that the lyrics and the content is always there, but it's a lot easier to hear it when the backdrop to what you're saying is right. And so I love that the Heat Makers, looks like exclusively or predominantly, put this project together, because it gave us a chance to listen to what they were saying, because the beats were so good. I ain't have to worry about the music. I can just focus on what I want to focus on, which is the lyrics and the content. And so I love that. Bring it up.
We used to be friends, and we ain't peers through the lens that you viewing me in.
Again, talking about Joe.
I'm posting on Twitter, you chime in on the make the combo look bigger. Or comment on a picture when I'm active on the gram. Why you playing with the fans? Tell the truth, you ain't my man.
It feels like all of this would have worked out if it wasn't for Joe. Like, Joe seems to be the root cause. And then sometimes you got to look and say, now, again, I love him as a rapper, but sometimes you got to look and be like, hey, man, maybe it's you. Because you look at, man, what's the former girlfriend's name? I can see her face and can't think of her name. But the young lady who is successful now, too, the Dominican, I can't think of her name, but her, not together. Look at Rory and Mal, not together. Look at the Slaughterhouse, not together. What is the consistency in all those? Joe. And in here, a lot of these songs sounds like it's him. Now, again, I wasn't in the room. I'm not in the situation. I don't know. But from an observer looking in, there could be some validity to some of these things.
This in my buddy nickel, now his blood a trickle. Walked in the booth with the bloody sickles and it hit me. This won't make none of my money triple. I got both hands on ballin'. Call it a double dribble, yeah, I thought about it. That narrative don't need to squat around it. How can Lupe make a slaughterhouse? Fuck that. Let's go and make a classic joint. And we can shoot at whoever using the album as a vantage point. I brought a deal to the table for 7 figures, dog. One album, easy dish to deliver, y'all. Gave him 48 hours and even Twitter saw. But I ain't been thinking Joe would consider to give a call. Didn't respect me enough to hit me for 30 seconds. If we eliminate class, how can we learn a lesson? And Royce was office, so this is where I refer to heaven. The slaughter died that day. I tossed a murder weapon. Let's rap about it. When I was busy.
Said he brought the deal to the table. He said Joe didn't even respect him to give him 30 seconds. Let you know where you stand. So you could see in some of the other songs, they kind of piece it together. But, I don't want to harp on that part of it. But I do understand they needed to vent. They needed to get it off their chest. But this is a really good project. These beats, it's a good vibe.
I'm in my feelings, y'all pardon. I feel like Oakley in the garden. When I played, it was full contact.
I think it's the one with the beat switches.
Resurrecting a Gucci and a Jesus piece. My biggie bag living ruthless on easy street. Fingers mad, no toe touching. Bad back, I can't even reach the feet. I'ma make the beat retreat.
All right, so I'm going to stop it right there. I feel like I can really deep dive even more. But as a whole, go play the CD. The CD is absolutely fire. It is really good. From everything you heard, and I probably have to chop this down some, but everything you've heard, the CD is really, really good. Definitely worth a listen. 3 really good CDs came out last week. This CD, Time to Talk 4, which I'll be doing next, and the Dave East, which I'll be doing as well. And so this was a really good project. Shout out to this. And they actually took a page out of Joe's book in which they allowed the pain to be what they use to flourish the drive and the focus to give us what they gave us. So this is really good a project. Shout out to the Heat Makers for making it, being the backdrop. You guys put in your thoughts. What did you think of it? How did you enjoy the CD? What did you think of it? What's your favorite record? Are you with them on it? Are you checking it out? Not, because it's not all 4 members. Leave in the comments. As always, I hope you guys have a wonderful, blessed, productive, stress-free day, weekday, weekend, whenever you're listening, however you're listening. I thank you for listening. Till next time.